Hello fellow crafters, Lori here with the Crafty Connection, and today I have 3 different Valentine DIYs for you. I kind of slacked off at Christmas time, not because I wanted to, just because things got very hectic, and I want to go ahead and get a jump start here on Valentine's Day and, moving forward. So for this first DIY, I'm using one of these square signs from Dollar Tree, and this particular sign is 11 inches by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. So it's 11 inches by 11 inches. It's a fall sign, but it won't be when we're done. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut off the twine hanger on this, and I'm going to attempt to pull up this paper, and if not I will sand it, but it looks like it. Oh, but look at that, they don't hardly ever come off that nice. Yay. Alright, so let me set that out of the way. So what I'm going to do first on this is I'm going to paint it. And I'm going to paint it in a powder pink from Craftsmart. It's just an acrylic paint. It's a very, very, very light pink. And then my plan is to dry brush over it with some red, I think it's called Imperial chalk paint from Home Decor. And then I made a stencil on my Cricut, and if you don't have a stencil, you can use really anything you want for these. You can use free printables. You can find those online by just putting in free Valentine printables. You could use any kind of stencil you wanted, sticker letters. There's so many different options. So I went ahead and printed out this stencil on the Cricut stencil vinyl, and it says Cupid's Brewing Company Premium Love Potions. And I'm going to be putting it down here after I paint the surface. So I'm going to go ahead and start by painting the surface, the powder pink, and I'm just going to use one of these sponge brushes from the Dollar Tree. And I'm not going to sit here and have you watch me paint the whole thing, but I will give it a good start and then do the rest off camera. So yeah, I'm just gonna take this over here. It's probably gonna take 2 or 3 coats, I'm guessing, to get a nice coverage that I'm looking for. And I will paint also the sides and the top all the way around. And the back's already a nice brown craft color, so I will leave that alone. You could always easily make a double-sided sign. Anyway, so this is coat 1 going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it, give it however many coats it needs, and let it dry. And then I'll come back and we can put the stencil on. Alright, so I have the pink all done and dry. I did 4 coats of the Craftsmart acrylic paint, and I did the sides. So now I'm going to do some light dry brushing in the color Imperial on this one. So let me pour some on my plate. Way too much. Alright, and I'm going to use one of these chip brushes. I think this is from the Dollar Tree, and it has all kind of paint on it, but it works well. So open up my paper towel here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is get some of this Imperial Red on the brush. I'm going to dab most of it off. And I'm going to start on the sides and just kind of give it a light dry brushing just to kind of outline the piece here. Gotta hold it right. I'm just doing this real lightly on the edges because I'm just looking for a nice little pop of color, so to speak, on the edge, or like a framing. And if you end up with too much, you could always take some of the powder pink or whatever color your base color is and go over it. But it's not going to be perfect in any way, shape, or form, and it's not meant to be. If you don't like this look, you can completely skip this part. I like it. I think it gives it a little more character and a little more pop of color. Alright, so I have that part done. And then now I'm just going to take it and go across my board lightly. Just giving it a nice dry brush. And again, if you don't like dry brushing, then skip this step. I like the way it looks, so I'm going to do it. Alright. That's it for that. And next we're going to put our stencil down. Let me kind of move that. Alright, so I have to put the transfer tape on the stencil, so let me move this. Alright, so I have the stencil ready to go here. I went to the Dollar Tree earlier today to get some transfer tape from there because I like their transfer tape. It doesn't stick like super hard to this. And while I was there, I of course forgot to get it. So, alright, so I'm just going to cut this down to size, which is about right there. And this is just the Cricut regular transfer tape I'm using. It is a little more stronger than the Dollar Tree one. So I got that cut down. Now I'm going to pull the stencil off, and I'm going to do it by pulling the mat from the stencil. No rhyme or reason really, I guess. I think it keeps it from curling as much. Okay, then I'm going to put this back down and put my transfer tape over the top. And I'm doing this so you can see how I transfer it onto the project. I always have such an issue getting the transfer tape to start. I watch other people in the videos and it's like they just flip it right up and go. And I don't have that luck. So I'm going to pick. Add it here. I think I got it maybe. And I really don't get how everybody I watch can just pull this junk right up. And if there's something I'm doing wrong, making it more difficult for myself, please let me know down in the comments. Alright, so I got it. So I'm just getting a little start there. I'm going to get this put out. Maybe stick my something there. So what I like to do is get the top open or started. And then I just try to go from the top of it. Pull it down as I go, like that. It's a piece of the tape that was on the edge of the transfer tape. Alright. And then I'll go ahead and give it a good press down to make sure it is on the transfer tape. Okay. Then I'm going to get my piece back here. And I'm going to peel the backing off of the stencil vinyl, which is that white carrier sheet. And again, I'm sure there's an easier way than what I'm trying to do, but I haven't figured that out yet. So, like I said, anybody has any fabulous tips on getting this off easier, please leave that in the comments below. So let me just try to get it started. Grief. I think we got it there. And I'm going to slowly peel this back. See if you can see where that came up right here. So I'm just going to lay that back down to get it to stick to the transfer tape. And go again. I go slowly. And I kind of wiggle it back and forth ever so slightly as I go. So I want to make sure all the pieces inside of the letters are sticking on the transfer tape where they belong. And not on the carrier sheet. And that looks good. Okay. I'm going to flip that on over. And I'm going to line this up best I can. Okay. That looks pretty good. I'm going to take the little squeegee thing and I'm going to get that stencil vinyl down. Try to get all or most of those air bubbles out. And like I said, if you don't have the Cricut, you can find stencils anywhere. Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, the Dollar Tree even has some. Or you could do a free printable, and you wouldn't have to do any of this part. But I really like the paint of the stencil and not just the vinyl on my signs. Vinyl's okay for some signs. I just like the way this looks. Okay, and then now I'm going to pull the transfer tape up slowly, because it doesn't always like to lay like it's supposed to. And when I do this, I also go kind of back and forth with it to make sure I have a nice and I do go slow to make sure I'm not pulling up any of the pieces from like between the O's and the E's from the stencil. and it just tore, and that's fine because I can just do this part and come back. The letters from the O, the V, and the E from the word love there was coming up, so I'm just giving it some more pressure down to stay. And this is where if you go back and forth a little bit, you get seems to come off easier. The transfer tape. I'm not gonna lie, it can be temperamental, that is for sure. Which is why I like using the Dollar Tree transfer tape for these, because it's not as sticky as the Cricut transfer tape. So for me, for doing stencils, it does a little better, in my opinion. Alright guys, so I'm going to keep pulling this off. I think it's really something that you want to watch me do for the next 15 minutes. Just keep in mind, you just want to go nice and slow to make sure all of the inner pieces of the lettering are down. You don't want to pull those up with your transfer paper. So, alright, so I'm going to pause this, get this all off, and then come back for my next step. Okay, so what I've done is I got the stencil all on here, and the only thing I don't like about this stencil vinyl is there is a lot of air bubbles. So what I did is I went ahead and put a coat of Mod Podge on all of the letters. Just use the Mod Podge small bottle from the Dollar Tree, and I put it on with a sponge brush. Just dabbed it in there and let it dry. So now I'm going to go ahead and stencil and hope that it doesn't bleed. So I'm going to use red on the Cupid. And I'm just going to dab this down. I'm not going to oversaturate it because I don't want bleedage. So I'm just going to do a nice first coat lightly here. And I will end up putting a second coat of paint over these when they dry. And I'm going to put red here on the hearts. The line of hearts. And I'm using that same Imperial Red chalk paint from Folk Art Home Decor. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just taking a nice light, and I'm dabbing. I'm not stroking this at all, because when you do the back and forth, it tends to bleed easier than when you dab it in. So I'm just going to get that first coat put in. Like that. And then I'm going to use some Craft Smart Black for the rest of the words. And I'm going to put it on the exact same way. So I'm going to get that on, let it dry, put the second coat on, let it dry, and then I'll be back. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pull the vinyl up. I'm not sure if it's going to have bleedage or not. If it does, I will just have to paint over it and redo it. I usually do set my stencils with regular vinyl, and I don't have too much trouble. This does have a lot of air bubbles, so I'm not too hopeful, but we'll see. Here we go. Not so pretty, is it? Let's see what we got when I do some weeding here. Yeah, see the Cupid didn't even... Ay. Probably should have just stuck with regular vinyl. But we might be able to salvage it. Let's see what we get. This paint is just coming right up. Not so pretty. Not pretty at all. Well, I guess we will redo this. That, or I might be able to take the paintbrush and kind of fix it up. I'm not sure here. I can tell you I'm not real happy with the way this came out with the stencil vinyl. Not happy at all with it. Yeah, I'm gonna pick and sand a lot of this off. I'm gonna repaint it. I might be able to keep the Cupid and the hearts down at the bottom. Let's see here. Yeah, the Cupid looks great with the chalk paint. This needs a little touch up here. But yeah, I'm not impressed at all with the stencil vinyl. I think if I'm going to do this, I will definitely go back to using just the regular vinyl. It doesn't bleed nearly as much as this does. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do is pick the rest of this vinyl out. And I'm going to sand off the black letters and make a new stencil out of regular vinyl. And we will try this again. Okay, I'm back. So what I ended up doing was painting over everything except for the Cupid. And once I got it painted, I went back over with the red and the dry brushing. I've cut some more vinyls out on, or stencils out on regular vinyl. So I'm going to kind of cross my fingers here and hope this works. I am running low on transfer paper tape, so I'm going to try to reuse this one for everything, which is why I had to do it in pieces here. So let me get the tape started again. And I like to leave my mistakes in so you can see that, you know, everybody makes mistakes, or sometimes things don't work, and there's no reason to throw your project away or scrap it, because you can, you know, paint over most anything and then just redo it. Try it again. Try, and you will eventually succeed. So I'm gonna fight with this transfer tape. There we go. Okay, so this time I'm just gonna pull it off since it's a little piece, and I'm just gonna lay it the best I can here. As like I said, I am running out. So I'm going to try to use this piece for both of my long ones. You see, get the back off the vinyl. That one came off nice. So I'm going to go slow. This black vinyl I'm using is Dollar Tree vinyl. So I'm kind of hoping for the best, because my vinyl is running out. I need to definitely need to go to the store. But I think I have enough to finish this one up, if all goes well. A piece of the O came up, but I can put it back down after I lay this. I'm going to try to get it lined up. Okay. Sorry if my head's all in the way there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me put the O back down in there. Oops, it's not quite right. So like I said, you just gotta play with stuff sometimes and figure it out. Still not right. We're gonna let that work. Okay, I'm gonna, again, put that vinyl, try to get it down there good. And then pull up the transfer tape slowly, because I want to reuse it. And you just want to make sure you're going slow, kind of rocking it back and forth. And I will say, I did use that Cricut vinyl stencil on a sign I made, and it bled through that too, so I'm gonna say I'm not a fan of it, and I probably won't use that again. I know I watched a video where someone used, I believe it was an Oracle brand of stencil, and they seem to have a lot better luck with that, so I might try that and see how that goes. But for the Cricut vinyl, I won't be wasting my money on that one again. Set that down and it ripped. Imagine that. So I gotta pull it up some more over here. Yeah, that's got a much better seal there. Alright, then I have my little piece of transfer tape with my hearts here. And this piece is too big, so let me cut it in half. Probably don't even really need it. I could probably lay that down okay, but since I'm running short on vinyl, I'm gonna do it the right way to make sure it goes in right, or goes down right. This transfer tape gets on my nerves. Here we go. Okay. Just gonna put that over there. I will say I do like the Dollar Tree vinyl for stencils, unless I'm cutting a small stencil, then it's not so nice, because it doesn't, it's kind of, it gets fairly loose, and it doesn't, in my opinion, well, it's not my opinion, it doesn't cut well when on smaller fonts. It kind of rips it up. But for bigger fonts like this or things, then it works just fine, I think. I did, and this is Cricut vinyl. It's regular removable vinyl. And since I need to use this piece of transfer tape, I'm going to cut it. Down to size. Okay. I'm going to put this piece of transfer tape that I used a minute ago on it and press it. This one is not going to come up easy like the Dollar Tree vinyl did. Which kind of shows you it's not super sticky, the Dollar Tree. But it works perfectly fine so far. Alright, so I don't have, let me see if I can add a piece of this to the end. This is just the other piece of transfer tape I used. But I just kind of wanted to show you that you can make things work using your scraps and whatnot, and just pull. It's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Yeah, just pull your tape off the back. There we go. Now it should come. You just gotta go slow and make sure you get all of these the pieces in between the letters down. And I like to show you guys when I'm doing mine that it's definitely not a perfect process here. You know, you have to go back down and re-stick pieces from the insides of the letters. You know, I'm not gonna edit that part out of my videos. I just want to show the true way it works, I guess. You know, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It has a beautiful result, but it's not always the easiest, as you can see. And all I'm doing when I take the squeegee there is just going over it and making sure the pieces from the insides of the letters are down. And there we go. I'm just going to try to line this one up good. Looks pretty good, I think. Yeah. Let's hope I got that straight. Okay, and then what I do is I'm just gonna put that down, pull the transfer tape up, and I'm gonna go slow again to make sure all of those pieces, and I'm going to kind of go back and forth, just making sure all those pieces inside of the letters stay down on the project and not on the transfer tape. And there we go. All right. Yay! Alright, so again, I'm going to Mod Podge here because I like that. It does help, believe it or not, a lot for the bleedage. So I'm just going to take my scraper tool and just make sure I have all the air bubbles out. And that's what I was getting in the stencil vinyl, was a ton of air bubbles, and I'm not getting them here. So I think we should have a much better outcome. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge, let it dry, come back, and we will try that stenciling again. So I'll be back in just a minute. Alright, popping back in to show you. I have the Mod Podge on everything, and all I did was squirt a little on it and then take the side of, or the side of my brush, and I'm just dabbing that all in over the letters like so, making sure I have all the letters covered, because this is going to form a seal that's going to help with the bleedage. So I did all that. I covered all of the ends, so I'm going to let that dry, then I'll come back and we'll paint. Alright, just popping back in to show you that my Podge is all dried. I already did the red and most of the black. I'm just doing the exact same thing, exact same brush, exact same paint as I did on the first one. Just putting it on there and dabbing it in. Just being careful down here because I did cut the stencils shorter. It's running out of vinyl. And then I'm just going to go back over it as it dries one more time. And then when it's all completely dried, I'll come back, we'll pull the vinyl off and finish this one up. Alright, the second coat is not quite dry here, but I'm going to go ahead and pull the vinyl because I'm afraid it's going to stick and pull my paint up. So let's see what we got here. Well, so far it is looking much better than it did with the stencil vinyl. Stop barking. To get black paint on the sign here, but I do want to get this off. I'm sorry, it's that time of the day for barking, I guess. But in my house, that's all day, every day. Get down. You stop it. I'm trying to get this stuff up, guys, without it smearing. Some of this I'm gonna just let be before I weed it out or anything, because it is wet. Let's pull this piece up. Looking a whole lot better than it did. Alright. Alright, so I'm going to let the rest of this dry before I start weeding out the middles. But, yeah, that's looking a whole lot better. Alright, let this dry. I'll weed it out and I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. And so I made another mistake and I'm going to show you how to fix that. So this probably should have been a video on how to fix mistakes. Anyway, so I have the Cupid's Brewery here. And I don't know why that feels a little wet there. Anyway, so I have Cupid's Brewery. Now the brewery is supposed to be going up at an angle. That was the whole point. But this part is going down, and that was not part of the plan. I can't really tell on camera, but it is angling down. So to fix that, instead of painting it, you could always paint over it and redo it, but I'm going to do something different. You can take a piece of wood. This is a piece from Dollar Tree, but this one's a bit too long and I don't feel like cutting it, so I'm not going to use that. So what I'm going to do is I took a piece of just white cardstock and I printed on it from my just regular computer and printer the Premium Love Potions here, and I cut it down, and that's what I did. So that's going to go here, but to make it look better, I have a piece of cardstock. Not cardstock, sorry, chipboard. You can use any kind of chipboard, a cereal box, you could label them up, you can get a thin piece of wood, whatever you have. And then what I had done is I laid it down and I measured it and just put 2 little notches here. So I'm going to cut that to fit my sign. So let me get the paper trimmer out. You can use scissors and a ruler. You don't have to use a paper cutter. I just have it sitting here and that's what I'm using. And it doesn't cut all the way through. You can turn it over on your paper cutter. I'm just going to get my scissors and cut down that piece. And then I'm going to turn it and cut it on the other notch that I made. Making sure that it's even. Okay. So I have my piece of chipboard now, and that's going to sit right here. And then I have my little piece here that will go on top. But I want to paint this, and I think I'm going to paint it red with the pink dry brushing just to kind of make it stand out. So I'm going to go ahead and paint my chipboard, and then I'll come back and we'll put the rest of it together. Okay, so what I've done is I painted the chipboard red and I dry brushed it with the pink, and it's kind of hard to see it on film. And then I took the cardstock printout I made and I Mod Podged it onto the piece of chipboard here and added a little of the red dry brushing over it. And then I took and put these on the end. I got one more to do, which I'll show you on camera. And all these are is little half beads. Let me see if I can open this and show you. I got this off of Amazon. I will link it below. I'm using half beads here. You could use a Sharpie and just make the dots on here, which would be just as easy. Just to make it look like it's tacked in is my goal here. And I'm using some of the super glue wood glue from Dollar Tree, and I'm just putting a dab of it on the sign, and I'm taking the bead and putting it down on that glue, positioning it where I want it, and pushing it down. And then that has to set up for a moment. And then that is ready to put on our sign. So I'm going to move my paint mess out of the way. And this is the super glue, wood glue I'm using from Dollar Tree. I love this stuff. It works amazing. All right, so I'm going to bring my sign back over here, and I'm going to let those tacks beads dry on there real fast while we work on the hanger. So for the hanger, I am going to use some twine, and I'm going to just cut off a piece, and I'm going to put beads on mine, and I'm going to use these here. These little black beads I got. And I said in previous videos, I got this from one of those chair, back massaging chair things, and I just cut all the beads off it. And I'm going to string some on. Let me put a little hot glue on the end of this so it's got something to go through the beads. Just gonna put a little bit on the end here. And then just kind of twist it in there so it's got a hard end, and twist it. Just cutting off the fuzzy piece there. Alright, that should slide through much better. So I'm going to put these. Note I said should slide through much better. There we go. Oops, I almost forgot to put my ends through the sign here. I'm gonna have to glue the other end too to get it through. You don't have to put a hanger on yours like this. You could just put regular twine or string or ribbon. Whew, hot. You could put a hanger on the back. And if you do that, I would suggest filling the holes if you're not going to use the twine. So I'm just going to run that twine through the hole here, and then I'm going to tie a knot. I just tied a double knot, and then I'm going to trim off the end. And then that gives us our sign. I like the way these look when you do them like this. Personal preference. And then I'm going to add some beads. Not sure how many. I'll let you know how many I'm using. And these beads are they're just black wood beads, like I said, that I got off a massager chair pad. And they are about ½ an inch on every side, a little over. 1, 2, 3. See how much easier they are to string when you put the glue on the end there, or a piece of tape. There's 5. There's 6. 7. 8. 9. could use the regular round beads that you can get from any craft store. Dollar Tree carries them now. You could leave them plain, you could paint them. It's all personal preference onto what you prefer. Alright, so we have 11. I don't know why, but I like to use odd numbers. So I have 11. That bead doesn't want to open well. That's 12. And this will be 13. You know what? I'm going to use an even number this time, 14, because Valentine's is on February 14th. Okay, then I'm just going to string this back into this other hole here. And I'm going to pull it taut so all my beads are where they need to be. And then I'm just going to knot it again on this side. I like these bead hangers. I think they just take the sign to a whole different level. And like I said, it's all personal preference. I'm just bringing you the ideas. Make it your own. And not only have I brought you the ideas, I've showed you how to fix the mistakes so you don't ruin or throw out your project. Okay, and I just cut off that end there. All right, now we can put the bottom piece on. And this is gonna go right over the mistake, so you'll never even know it was there. And I am gonna use some of the wood glue and some of the hot glue for the instant hold. Long term and instant. Excuse me. I'm gonna kind of take a brush and just spread this out some. That way I'm getting all the edges how they need to be. And then just add a little bit more right down the middle. Then I'm going to take a little hot glue and run a bead of that down the bottom and the top. There we go. Position it where we want it to be, making sure it's even and straight, and press it down. Hold it for a few just to give that hot glue a minute to grab on. And then I like to push on the very corners to make sure they are nice and secure. Alright. Now I had thought about putting a bow on this. Not sure. Like hanging down here, maybe. Not sure. Kind of like it the way it is. I am going to run some Mod Podge over the whole sign. Over that. Just to seal it in real good. But I can do that off camera. You don't need to see that. So yes, I think that's good. I think I'm going to not put a bow on this one. Just because I think it's super cute the way it is. And I will post pictures of these hanging at the end of the video. So I'm going to Mod Podge this, seal it up, and this one is done. And we will move on to DIY number 2. Alright, now I'm back for DIY number 2. And this one I'm using this heart plaque sign from Dollar Tree. It's got the spaces in between. And so for this DIY I'm using this. I'm using a couple pieces of scrapbook paper in neutral colors. I am going to use some burlap. And then I'm also going to use this lace that's on the burlap. And I'm going to use some pink paint. So for this DIY, we're going to start with cutting the hanger tag off. And I'm actually going to save a piece of this because I'm going to have the hanger on the back of this one. Normally, I would cover the holes with some Dollar Tree spackling, but I don't need to because we're going to have paper and things over this. I'm going to go ahead and move my paper first, and I am going to paint the piece that I'm going to put the lace on, which is going to be this piece here, and that's going to be my pop of color on my sign. So I'm going to grab a foam brush out. These I get from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to get some of my pink paint. And I'm just going to paint this. Maybe I'm going to paint this. Looks like it might be dried out. Alright, let me see if I can pull the yuck part out. Don't know. This one obviously hasn't been used in a while because it's pretty dry. But it's gonna work for this. I just took the hard chunk out of the top. And it's very thick acrylic paint right now because it's old, obviously. But it still works. You can always, if it's too thick for your liking, you can always add water to it and mix it up, and it's good as new. So anyway, I'm just painting this. So I'm going to paint this one strip here and then let it dry, and then I'll be back. Okay, so this one is now dry. I just did the one coat because A, it was thick, and B, I'm going to have lace over this. So next I'm going to do the paper. And what I want to decide is, I know that I have the lace here, and one of my papers has a lace print on it. So this one I want to put at the bottom, I know, here. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to turn it over and turn my sign over, and then I'm going to trace it out onto the paper. I'm just using a pen. Push it down so I can get a good trace. Okay. And whoops, did not go down on that part there. And this is why I do this on the back of the paper, so I don't have any lines. And then I'm going to cut that out. Just using my scissors. Just staying on that line. This piece of paper is very thin. I got this paper from Michael's, but Hobby Lobby has a really good variety of loose papers also. Okay, So I have that one cut. And then, so that one's going here. This one's gonna be my burlap, and this will be the top paper, which is this one. This one's a lot thicker, like cardstock. So I also want to decide, do I want my stripes going this way or this way? And I think I want them to go up and down. So I'm gonna flip that over to where they're going the direction I want. And then I'm gonna set this down and do the same thing. I'm gonna trace out the heart, top of the heart. And I make sure I'm holding this down as I do it so it doesn't shift. Like so. And then again, just cut it out. Following those lines. And I'm just going nice and slow since I don't want to mess it up. And you can use any colors you want for these. This is just my idea. You could do them in reds, whites, pinks, both, neutrals, black and whites. It's like whatever you are into. And whatever you think looks nice or matches your color decor. Sometimes just cutting off a piece will help you get back into the cutting process, making it a little bit easier. Okay, so we have that 2 papers cut, and then right here I went a little bit too big from the line, so I'm just trimming that up. So there's the top part of our heart. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the burlap. But first, for this, I got this burlap at Walmart. And it's it was a really big roll. This is what I have left. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some of this lace off. It comes off really easy. You just get a start here. Pull what you want off. I pull it off a lot of times for just to have the burlap and save it for later for another project. And that should be just fine. So I'm going to cut this off. Get my fabric scissors. There we go. And we'll just set this aside. And then we're going to do the same exact thing with the burlap piece, which is going to be this one. And the only thing different I'm doing here is I'm going to use a Sharpie, if I can find my Sharpie. There it is. Nope, that's not it. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can find it. Alright, my Sharpie has left the building. Let me get my little junk box here. Sorry about the arms and everything in the way. Okay, I do not see it. So let me put this back. And we will just use a pen. Hopefully. So So I'm going to make those marks. Let me see if that's... Nope. All right, let me find my Sharpie, guys. I'll be right back. All right, Sharpie has been retrieved. So I'm just going to trace my piece out with the Sharpie. Same way we did the paper. All right. And I'm gonna just cut this out. To make it easier to cut. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to cut right on those Sharpie lines. And I'm just going slow with this to make sure I'm on the line straight, and to try to keep it from fraying before I can put the Mod Podge on it. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to take my heart back, and I want to do the burlap first. Whoops, make sure the Sharpie side is down. So I'm going to line this up. And then I see a few little pieces here that I just want to trim up a little bit. You could always use fabric too on this. That would be really pretty. Some pretty Valentine's or neutral fabric, whatever you have or like. Alright. Really don't need this paper at the moment. No, yes I do, because I'm Mod Podging. So we're going to do the burlap first because it's going to fray the most. And I'm just going to put the Mod Podge right there on the piece. So on the section I want the burlap. And put it down there and spread it out. You want a pretty nice amount of the Mod Podge. I'm going to have to put a little more. Just want to make sure I'm getting my edges. I'm going to add a little bit more because I want a good stick. Again, just making sure I really have enough on those edges. And the tops and the bottoms. This dries clear, so you don't have to worry about that. Then I'm just going to line this up where it goes. And this can easily be trimmed out once we get it in and put on how we want it. And then once you get it on there, we're going to Mod Podge right over the top of it. Just kind of holding it down so we get a and this will take quite a bit because it's going to soak in a lot of that Mod Podge. Making sure you get those ends and the tops and the bottoms, all the edges really well. That's an important step. Because A, it's going to stop the fraying, and B, it's going to make sure you have a nice, secure hold. We don't want it coming up. You can see I am putting a generous amount on here, getting that end. A little bit more. And then once you get all the Mod Podge in and it's dry, if you want to do trimming at that point, it makes it a lot easier to trim because this burlap's going to be nice and secured and nice and hard, which will make easy for trimming. Alright, so I'm going to leave that there, and I may end up putting another coat over it. I don't know yet. But while we're Mod Podging, we're going to go ahead and put the second piece down here. And that is our lace paper. This is the real thin piece of paper, and that goes here. And I'm going to put a lighter layer of Mod Podge down because the paper is so thin. But again, getting all that Mod Podge in the corners and on the edges. And then I'm going to place this one down. And again, this is easier, much easier to trim once it's on and dry. Then the Mod Podge makes it nice and smooth, not smooth, nice and secured. So I'm not going to put the top layer on this one yet. So I want the bottom to dry. I don't want a whole lot of wrinkles if I can avoid those. Then I'm going to the top. Same thing here. And this is why we didn't have to cover the holes, because we're putting the paper directly over here so you won't even know there's holes. So again, making sure we get those edges real good in the corners. And this one is a heavier cardstock for this paper, so we don't need as much. I mean, we can use a little more. It doesn't have to be as thin. Just making sure I have all those edges. And then we'll put this paper on, lining it up. Doesn't have to be perfect because we can trim. I'm going to be taking my sanding block and around the edges of these, it just kind of gives it a nice clean look. And then once I have that down, I'm just going to kind of wipe up some of the excess Mod Podge. It dries clear, so that's not a worry. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry. When it's dry, we'll come back and finish it up. Okay, so as I was putting this to the side to let it dry, I realized I didn't put the lace on. So I'm going to put the lace on. So again, I'm going to take the Mod Podge and put it here on the part we painted. It's already dry. And then I'm going to put a nice thin layer of Mod Podge on it. Making sure I get those corners real well. And the edges. Then I'm going to take my lace, and guess what I did? I forgot to measure it, but I can cut it down once it's on. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down, pressing, making sure I get those edges and corners pressed down very well. And I'm going to put the Mod Podge right back over this one, because this isn't paper. And this is just going to harden it up and give it a good seal. And making sure I, again, get good coverage on those ends and edges. because that's what's going to harden it up to make it easy for trimming and cutting. Again, just making sure I have those edges. Very well covered. Alright, now we'll let it to dry and come back as soon as it's dry. Okay, so I'm showing you where I'm at. I did have to cut the lace down because it was sticking to the Mod Podge on the burlap here. So now what I'm going to do is go and find places like right here. It's coming up, so I'm going to take my Mod Podge and just fill those in there and press it down. Finding any loose edges. So far it looks pretty good. A couple of little edges here. And then once I get those down, I'm going to just take some Mod Podge over the top of the paper. I'm not going to oversaturate it. I'm just going to put a nice thin layer. Making sure I have the edges and everything nice and covered. That's my little tiny dog you're hearing. And she is spoiled rotten. She wants to get under the cover in her bed, but she's too lazy to do it. I have to lift it up for her. It's a lazy dog. Alright, so I got that covered, and my lace looks good. My burlap all looks good, and I need to put some Mod Podge on the bottom paper. So I'm putting some there. Also checking the edges here. They all look pretty good. So I'm just making sure when I put the top layer on, that I'm getting those edges and ends, again, very well. So we don't want them peeling off. Okay. It has little pieces of cut lace in there. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and trim these edges of the heart. And sometimes if you turn it over, you can get a cleaner cut. But putting that Mod Podge on those makes it a lot easier to trim. And you can hear her again. The utility knife works really good for this too, which I'm going to have to get for this part, but I need it to dry a lot more. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little more Mod Podge on the ends of the burlap. Just to make sure that they are nice and secure and not going to come off anywhere. And I'm just doing this on the edges. And then when that's dry, I can trim any of the loose pieces off. Alright, so we're gonna let this sit and dry and come back when it's dry and we'll finish it up. Alright, I'm back. Everything's dry. I did do a few things here. I didn't like that bright pink underneath this. It just did not look right. It was like a hot pink and excuse me, sorry. I didn't care for the way it looked at all. So I just went back over it with that pale pink I used in the last video. I think it looks much better. I painted right over the lace. You can still see the lace and the texture. I'm not sure if you can on the camera, but it's there. And then I went and trimmed everything up on here. And then I took my little finger sander. Here, you can use just regular sandpaper. You don't have to use this. And I went along these papers and I sanded these down to get a nice smooth finished edge here. And you always want to make sure you're going down so you don't rip your paper. And I did the same up here. I did not do down in here because I couldn't get it in there. I was trying to stick it in there and I just can't get it, so I'm leaving that in there. So all that does is just give it a nice smooth edge. Alright, and what I want to do next now, I also took some of the Waverly Antique Wax and I did do the little wood pieces that connect them. I just thought it looked a little better than the bare wood. So I did that. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to dry brush around all of these edges with some of the antique wax just to kind of give it a more rustic look. So I'm going to get some. Can probably just use what's in the lid here, and I'm just going to get some on my brush and then dab most of that off. And I'm just going to get it. I'm going to start at the bottom here. And I'm just going to go around the edges. Again, just to give it a little more of a rustic, antiqued look. Oops, need a little more up there. So let me get this bottom one done and I will show you what it looks like. Oh, let me get the top part of it too. And this is another reason why I wanted to put this on those little connector pieces, because it just makes everything look cohesive. These are a little difficult to get into because of the way it's made, but you can just get in there and get them. It's pretty easy. So there's the around the edges, and I'm probably going to dry brush a bit over it, just to get it all blended in there. I like this look. If you don't like this look, you can absolutely skip it. And then I'm going to do the same up here on all of these. It might be a little harder in the burlap, or you just may have to use a little more than you would on the paper. But I'm just kind of getting those edges. You're going to have to kind of just get in here on the, and just kind of going across the bottom here with the antique wax. I'm going to do the same on the top. Just brushing it along that top edge. And then I'm going to go over it just to get it all blended in. And then on the lace piece, same thing. Just again going across it to get it just get a little bit on those edges. Like I said, it just, to me, kind of antiques it up, makes it look older, antiqued, vintage, whatever. And I like the way it looks a lot. And then I'm going to take it across. And doing this also helps highlight that lace that I painted over. It really comes out when you put this dry brushing over it. And you could even dry brush it with like an ivory color over it. That would look pretty too if you don't like the dry brushing. Maybe, hopefully you can see where it's bringing that lace out a little bit there. It looks really pretty in person. I hope the camera's picking that up for you. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this top one. And like I said, if this is not your jam, then just completely leave this part out. I like the way it looks, so I'm doing it. I think it's got a nice, just a really nice look to it. So let me get this on here, and then that part will be done. And it does go with the, matches much better with those pieces that I added the antique wax on. And on this one, I will take it up and down a little bit because that's the way I got my stripes going. It almost gives me almost like a Victorian look with the lace piece on there and the antique wax around it. Anyway, I like it. I think it's very pretty. So again, hopefully you can catch that on camera. It's very, very pretty in person. All right, we're gonna move these out of the way. And then my next thing I want to do is I got some of this ribbon lace from Dollar Tree. And I think I want to put a piece of it right across this lace right here. It's a cream color. And I really like it. So I'm going to put some on here. So I'm going to take my scissors and just even the end down. And I am going to take it over just a slight bit on each end so I can trim it or wrap it around the back, whichever one looks better. So I'm going to cut it out, and I'm just going to run a bead of the hot glue right down that center. Set that right there over it. Making sure I get it as centered as possible. And just give it a light little press. I think that just adds to the look of it. Okay, then I'm going to decide here, am I going to wrap it or trim it? Trim it. I'm going to go right up against the edge of that heart. Sometimes it's easier to do from the back and get a closer cut. Alright, and there that is. Okay, and then the last step I'm going to do, I just made a twine bow. I made a finger bow. And I'm just going to put that right here in the middle. Just some hot glue there. Add that bow right there. I think it just kind of adds to the rusticness using the twine. And I'm going to trim this up. Alright, now all I need to do is put my hanger on the back. So let me show you that. That's really cute. Very pretty. Turn it over. And I want my hanger to go here, but I don't want it to stick out. So what I'm going to do is put it right here on this middle slat, about right there. So I'm going to get my glue right there in the middle. And glue that right down there. Put another dab of glue on top of it, because we don't want that coming off or going anywhere. And then I'm just going to put a piece of this chipboard over it, just to kind of give it a more of a cleaned up look. Some of the glue did squirt out here, which I will just try to grab it with my finger. And then I'm going to cut the bottom off. And there we have our nice little hanger. Looking very professional. And there we have DIY number 2. I think this was very nice. I think it came out beautiful. I like this light pink a whole lot better than I like that bright pink. And with the dry brushing, you can see the lace, the textures here. It's just, I think it's really, really pretty. All right, I will I will show pictures of these hanging at the end of the video. And now we're going to move on to DIY number 3. And now we're going to work on DIY number 3. So let me show you what I'm using for this project, and then we can start working. So I'm using a Dollar Tree heart shape, wood shape. I am using some scrapbook paper. This has musical notes on it. I got this at Hobby Lobby. I mean, you can use any background you want, or you could just paint it, but this is what I'm using. And then I have some other things that I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this. I've got an idea in my head. So we'll do it and play around with it as we go. I got this metal corrugated looking heart from Dollar Tree. It has a thing on the front that I'm going to pull off. I also have some of these. These are just wooden hearts that somebody had painted on here a long time ago. So I may just use these and repaint them. I haven't decided yet. I have some buttons. I just grabbed, I've had these for a while, just some red and pink buttons. I think I got this at Joann's. I'm using, I found these little keys on Amazon last year, and I used them in my letters to Santa for the Santa's secret key for people that, or kids that didn't have a fireplace. And they're just different metal keys. So I might use one of these. And possibly some paint if I paint over things. And then I'm going to be using some ribbon. I don't know which one yet. I'm going to use some cinnamon because I'm going to give this a rusted look, an old rusted look, and I'll show you that technique that I use as I'm going. And then some Mod Podge. I'm going to try a different way to put my paper down first, and I'm going to use some of the Dollar Tree glue stick here, some hot glue, probably some wood glue, And anything else as we go along, I will let you know what we're using. Alright, so first what I want to do is I want to take this off because it's driving me crazy. I actually liked the heart, but I don't like the hands on it. And if I can cut those hands off, I will use it. But we will see. So I'm just using my kitchen knife, one I've pulled out many months ago to use for this purpose right here. Alright, so we got that off. This we'll have to pick off. Let's get this bow and twine off. Sometimes these come right off and sometimes they don't. Sorry if you're hearing my dog whine in the background. She had got her some pepperonis for Christmas and she had some and now she thinks she needs more, but she doesn't because she's already chubby. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and cut this twine off. Alright, this will end up being the part we glue down, I think, because of all this. So we're going to work on this side. But before we do this, I'm going to put my paper down onto my wood heart piece. And I'm just going to cut the twine hanger off of this piece. And then move stuff out of the way. So what I want to do is I want to find this strip up here because I don't want to put my heart on that. So I'll probably just go ahead and cut it off so I don't mistakenly trace onto it. I think it's branding strip is what they call that. Alright, so I want my music to be going the right way, which with this is kind of, could be either way, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to go ahead and trace it first, because I'm using a glue stick, and I want to try to get the glue on the part that I'm using. But I want to do this on the back because I'm going to cut it a little farther out than what it is, and you'll see why in a moment. So just trace that on there. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it, but I'm going to cut it out farther than what it is, about probably a ½ inch larger than the actual tracing of the heart. And then I'm going to take the back side of the part that we just traced on, and I'm going to load this with glue stick. And I do mean loaded. I am going to go around the ends first, and I am pressing to get a lot of the glue. On those ends, and you can always lift it up as you're once it's down if you need to add more. but I want to try to get a good stick on this. And then I'm just gonna, oops, try not to do that. This does take quite a bit of the glue stick, but when you get 5 or 7, I'm not sure how many come in there for $1.25, you really can't beat that. So. So I'm just trying to make sure I get all of the paper glued. It does take a minute to get it all glued down because it's a bigger piece of paper. This was a 12 by 12 piece of paper. I will let you know the measurement of that heart I used in just a minute, but you can do this on any size heart or whatever shape you're using. And then I kind of put it sideways just to make sure I have it all covered. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to take the heart, which measures about 12 inches by a little shy of 12. So, take my heart, and I'm going to stick it on my paper to where it's completely covered. And then I'm just going to use my hands to get air bubbles out of here. And the reason I'm trying this way is because I don't want a lot of air bubbles on my paper or wrinkles because I'm going to be Mod Podging. So I'm taking it like the edges right here, and I'm just taking my finger along that edge, making sure I get those edges down very well. Pressing out any wrinkles as I go. Okay. And just going over it some more to make sure we have all the air bubbles out. And as you're rubbing, you will find some air bubbles and wrinkles. Just an extra step to try to keep the paper as smooth as possible. Okay, and then I'm just gonna, let's see what happens here. Now I'm gonna put a layer of Mod Podge over this. I'm just gonna use a foam brush. Got these in a pack from Dollar Tree. Alright. And I'm just gonna put this directly on my paper. And you don't want it to sit there on your paper for too long. So you want to get it rubbed in. Making sure you get these edges. It's very important because that's what's gonna hold the paper down with the glue and harden up your paper so we can easily trim it. And then I add a little more over here. And I just want to make sure I have the edges on here very good. So all I'm doing is just kind of pushing that out over the edges, making sure I have complete coverage on everything. And if you don't, or you come back and you find that there's a loose spot, it's easy to just add more. Alright. I do see a few wrinkles and air bubbles in there. But for the most part, I think it'll be better than it would have been without using the glue stick. Had I put the Mod Podge down and then more Mod Podge, I think it would have been a lot worse. And you can try to kind of brush those out. Alright, let me get my little plate I use for my brushes. Alright, so let me get this dried and come back and we'll move on. Alright, while we're waiting for this to dry, I worked on this side of the heart with the hands. This one still has the hands. This one I got off. I'm going to show you how I did it. I just took my utility knife and I just kind of lightly scored it right around the heart, like so, just so I could get a little bit of an indentation for my knife, and then I'm going to go through it again with more pressure, and I'm just following that original score line I made with the knife, and I'm just going to go on it several times. I've already gone over it about 5 or 6 times before, and then it pops right off like this, and then you can just go back in and get any little pieces of the, I guess it's cardboard, so they have a name for it. It's like a cardboardy wood, or very hard chipboard would probably be a better, very thick chipboard. So I did get the actual hands. The fingers are still on there, but the shape of the heart is what I'm looking for. Alright, and then I'm gonna just take my finger sander. You can use sandpaper, sanding block from Dollar Tree, whatever you have. And I'm just gonna go over that and just smooth it out a little there. Do the same on this side. But it cut actually pretty good right along the heart where I wanted it. So there we go. And now I'm going to try to pull this paper up. Don't know if I'll have any luck with it. Sometimes they come up and sometimes they don't. This one's going to come off in pieces. Going to come off very well, but I'm going to pick at it and get what I can get off of it, and then I'll sand the rest. So I will do that off camera. I don't think you want to sit here and watch me pick paper. So I will pick the paper off of this, and this is almost dry, so I'll be back in just a few minutes and we'll continue on. So I got most of the paper off. My main concern was around the outside of it, because the paper was loose and I didn't want it coming up after I painted it. I sanded off the glitter and smoothed out what was left of the paper. And I'm going to be painting this. But we're going to go back to this one, which is now dry. There's a few little wrinkles in there, and I'm thinking once I get all my paper off the ends, I may be able to like run the blow dryer over it or an iron to get those out. I don't know, we'll see. So I'm going to take my little sander, and again, you can just use regular sandpaper or sanding block, but I like the way this comes out. So I'm just taking the sander in a downward motion along that edge of the heart, and you can see the paper comes right off, and it gives it a really nice clean edge. to show you here. Maybe. Where I took the sander right here. See? Nice, perfectly clean edge. So I'm going to do that all the way around it, and then when I get that done, I'll be back. Alright, moving on now. I have been playing with buttons. So what I did is I took the heart that I took those hands off of, sanded it down, and I painted it. I used Folk Art Matte Apple Red acrylic paint. And I did 3 coats of it because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to put the buttons on. But I think I will, so that should not be a problem. So I'm going to slide these over. And then I'm going to get the hot glue gun ready. Well, it's ready. Just move it over so I can get to it. And I got this little silicone pad here. They come in, I think, pink and green, or pink and blue. And I got that. So I'm going to set it down here. They work really good. The glue just kind of pops right off it. So I have my big glue gun out, only because I can find my small one at the moment. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cover this with buttons. And my goal here is to get a nice flat layer first. There'll be some in between. But I just want to get a flat layer first. I'm going to start in the middle and just press that down. And then I'm going to just go all the way up around it till I have the bottom almost perfectly covered. So I'm just going to keep laying my buttons out all along this, like you see me doing here, picking off my hot glue as I go. And then once I get that first layer, then I'll come back and we'll add on. So I have the first layer on here. And another thing I wanted to mention, that the reason I painted the bottom is because you will be able to see a little bit in between, I think, when I get the next layer put on. And so that's why I painted it. 1 layer would be sufficient if you're going to do the buttons. Another thing I did is I pulled out some of the buttons I thought were pretty, so I can use those for other projects. And then I kind of used the ones I thought were kind of ugly, plus basic buttons. Like this is ugly to me, and this one was not shaped right, so you can see there. So that's what I use for the bottom, because a lot of these won't be seen. So what I'm going to do next now is go and add my top layer, and I'm just going to overlap like so. Now when you're pushing these down, I learned the hard way, don't push them down in the middle with the hot glue, because it does come up and it will burn your fingers. So what I did is, for this one, for example, I know I'm going to be putting it right on the edge of these 2 buttons. So I'm just going to put that down there, position my button, and just press it down. And then next, you see how you're going to see some of the ones from underneath, but not all of them. So it just gives it a nice hold. And I put the little ones on there just to have a little something for the buttons to anchor onto also. So you can kind of see how I'm going here. So over here, then I'll just put some on the little button and the ends of the other 2 buttons at the bottom, and then anchor that one right there, like so. So I'll do a few more on camera, and then I will do some off, or do the rest off. And I'm just changing up my colors a little bit, and different styles. It's not like there's a ton of different styles of buttons in this little pack that came, but enough to where I can mix them up a little bit. So there we go. Probably should have started in the middle, but I didn't. So I'm gonna just keep rolling like I am. I'll put that one there, which I know he's gonna say here and there. And I'll just pop it in there and press it down. And I think I'll probably work down here at an angle because that's where I'm at. I'll probably put that one up here. So, put a little glue. And you don't have to use this buttons, that's just what I'm doing. You could use scrapbook paper, you could use just paint, you could put embellishments on here, stickers, words, whatever you wanted to. It's your project, so it is completely in your control. So I want a little bigger one if I can find one for that. I think this one will work good, I think. Yes. So I'm just playing around as I, pull them out, finding ones that the colors are a little bit different. Come on, guys. And then just different sizes, different shapes. Well, and the bark bombers are at it. So this is a good time for me to go ahead and finish the rest off camera. So let me get the rest of these on and then I'll be back. Alright, so I have the buttons all done here. I have put them, the 2 layers plus a few little random ones on there. And tried to get the glue strings off the best I could. So that is that piece there done. So now we're going to work on making this look old and rusted. I did put some hot glue in my holes here. Don't know if it's going to work. Saw somebody else do it on YouTube, so I'm trying it out. But I really succeeded in getting a lot of glue strings everywhere else. So we'll see how that goes. And if it doesn't work, we'll cover them up somehow. Alright, so I'm going to start by putting some burnt umber paint onto my plate. And I'm just using the Apple Barrel burnt umber acrylic paint. And I'm doing it with one of these little chunky brushes from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to get some of that on my brush good. I'm going to dab a lot of it off here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around these edges with it. Just kind of outlining it. And then I'm just going to kind of go up and down and across the whole thing. I'm trying to get that shine off with this technique, so hopefully it'll work well for us. Trying to brush that in some. Don't want it to look like streaky paint when I get done. Okay, then next I'm going to take some burgundy Craft Smart acrylic paint. Using the same brush that I put the burnt umber on. Dabbing a lot of that off there. So I just want this to highlight parts. All I'm doing is just running it along here. Then I have some, what is this? Burnt sienna. It's folk art acrylic paint. Any brand is fine. And you can use any kind of browns and burgundies you want. These are just what I have, so that's what I'm using. Dab that in the same brush. Dab some of that off. And keep going, doing the same thing here. Now I'm going to take some of the cinnamon and I'm going to go around and sprinkle it all around the edges here of this heart. And no, this is not the cinnamon I cook or bake with. I buy this just for crafting purposes. And then I'm just going to put some random out there. And I'm going to grab me some more paint. I'm using that burnt sienna. And I'm just kind of dabbing it around the cinnamon. Alright, now what I'm going to do is take my heart and just kind of get rid of some of that. Kind of brush it, sticking to the glue there a little bit. So you can see it has a nice older rusty look there. And then not quite, I still have a lot of shine in it, which I don't care for. So I'm going to get some more of the burnt umber now. And I'm going to just keep playing with it. And really, what you're looking for is just kind of, it's pulling the cinnamon down off some of it, and that's fine because we're going to do some more. Okay, it's really just a process when you're trying to make something look old. Guess it takes time for something to look old in real life, so kind of the same concept. Alright, we're going to do more cinnamon. Adding a little more this time. Playing around with it. Alright, back to some of that burnt sienna. Actually, I think what I want to do now, I'm going to stick with this way. And what I'm trying to accomplish here is to get it down onto the heart. Now I'm going to get some Mod Podge. I use the same exact brush, and I'm just going to go through here and randomly dab this Mod Podge in, getting around the corners and edges. These brushes, I mean, you can save them after this, you can clean them out, but I usually use one that's been used quite a bit, actually. I'm just trying to get some of that cinnamon off of there. And my Mod Podge is about out. Alright, let's do it again. Alright, let's see where we're at here. The Mod Podge here has to dry, obviously. But I'm going to kind of dab that in some more. Okay, so I'm going to switch out papers here because this is a mess. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to pop back in to show you what I'm doing. I got Mod Podge and a sponge brush here. And what I'm doing is I'm just going down. I did this side already. And I'm just pushing my sponge down so I get in between all those little, I guess the little indents or the little crevices of that heart with the cinnamon. Because I want to make sure it's all sealed. We don't want cinnamon falling everywhere. And like I said, if you don't like the rusty look or the old rusty look, then you can just completely skip this part. Some people don't like it. You can leave this heart completely shiny. You can, oh, excuse me, you can paint it. You can do whatever you want with it. This is just my idea. And as with any DIY video, you just take what you like, leave what you don't, add in your own touches, your own colors, you know, make it you. That's all we can do. And then I'm just gonna run this down to even that out, like so. Just gonna make sure I have it all sealed up. Like I said, I don't want cinnamon going everywhere. All right, so this looks probably funny right now. It's all white, but the Mod Podge will dry clear. And then as soon as it's dry, I will come back and we'll move on. All right, so while the fake rust is drying, I'm going to move on to the heart. All right, so everything's down. It looks nice and secure. So I want to age this up some too, so it kind of all goes together. If you don't like the aged look, just skip this part. So what I'm doing is taking antique wax from Waverly, and I'm going to put some on the brush. I'm going to dab it off the brush. And I'm just going to go around my heart this brush. On the edges here, I'm just using the chunky brush. So all I'm trying to do is get this, the edge at this right now. So it looks like that, if you can see that. And all I'm doing is just taking this brush and just taking it along that edge. And then I'm going to take a piece of paper towel and just kind of rub in some of those bigger chunky pieces I got on there. I could probably just do it just as easy with a paper towel. Let's see. Yeah, that works just as well. Sorry about that. I'm still getting over that nasty cold that I had. It's gone, but the after effects are still hanging in there. So yeah, it works just fine with a paper towel. It's actually a little bit easier. And I'll just take a dry part of it and just get that rubbed in. So it just looks like aged paper. And that's all I'm going for. And then once I have the edges done, I'm going to take that same paper towel and I'm just going to lightly go across my whole paper, just giving it that nice little dirtied up age look. And like I said, if that's not for you, just skip this step completely. I like the way it looks myself. And if you get some heavy spots, just rub over them some more and they'll rub right in. And you can do this as much or as little as you like for the aging. I'm going to add a little bit more. And I just turn it over on the clean part if I get some that's too thick and just rub it in. It's real simple. Alright, I'm happy with the way that looks. Give me just a second here and I will show you. So you can, hopefully you can see that effect there on the camera. It's very pretty if you like this look, which I do. Alright, so next now I'm going to this is still a little bit wet in a few little spots here, but for the most part it is nice and dry. The Mod Podge sealed it. There's no cinnamon coming off. And it still smells good. Alright, so there's our aged tomato. Let me just flip it over and show you the original. Just nice and shiny. And the aged. And like I said, you can leave it nice and shiny. You could paint it with any colors you wanted. I mean, there's just a lot of options. So next I'm going to glue this down here. Now I'm going to use some of the super glue, wood glue, as well as hot glue. So I'm going to turn it over. And get some of the wood glue. Now this is not going to lay completely flat because of the corrugated pieces. So I'm going to put the wood glue on the pieces that are sticking up. I mean, some of it's going to drip down, and that's fine. You'll never see it. And if this was flat, I could just put it over everything, but it's not. So just getting it on those peaks that's gonna sit on the wood heart. Then I'm going to grab some of the hot glue because I want that instant hold, and I'm just running this one around the heart. So it'll stick where it needs to stick. Okay. I'm going to flip it over and make sure I have it positioned exactly how I want it. Press it down and hold it for a few seconds to give it time to adhere. Let that hot glue get a nice grab, and then the rest of it will dry as it sits. So everything looks old and rustic here. I love it so far. I'm not sure this is gonna really fit. Look how shiny and new these buttons look. So I'm not sure about this, but it may just be the pop of color that it needs. So anyway, let this dry here. Let me play around with this a little bit, and then I will be back to give you the final decision. Okay, so I decided to go ahead and use these 3 wood hearts that I had that were already painted. But you can use anything. You could get some small wood hearts. You could paint them. They don't have to have the florals on them. Or you could use the buttons, which is still super cute. And I do like it a lot. I'm just not sure. Actually, I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing here. So I have this option here. I'll put them on here. So something like that. Or this one. Let me know in the comments which one you like the best, the buttons or the wood hearts. I kind of like the buttons now that I have it on there. So decisions. Buttons or painted hearts. Let me look again. want them angled. You know, I think I'm going to go with the buttons because I think this paint and this is going to be just a bit too busy. And I did the buttons, so I'm not really sure how I would tone these down because they're bright. So I think we'll go with the buttons like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on, and it's only going to glue onto the corrugated parts, but I don't, so I'm just going to put some glue here on the back of it. It'll stick where it needs to. And add a little hot glue to it. That hot glue is like steaming, which is weird. I've never seen it do that before. Okay, then I want to flip it around, position it right where I want it, and press it down. It's on now, decision made, but please let me know in the comments which one you would have chosen. Okay. We'll let that get a nice stick. And then I think I'm just gonna make a twine bow for this, and I wanna put one of those keys, one or two of those keys on actually. So I'm gonna make a twine bow. I'm gonna do a finger bow with this, with a few different loops. I'm gonna pull out quite a bit of twine here. Probably too much, but better too much than not enough. And I want my tails to be about here. So what I'm gonna do to make the bow here is just pinch this here, and then I'm gonna wrap. So I have these fingers here, this finger, middle finger, and thumb. And I'm gonna hold it out as far as I can go. And I'm gonna wrap it around those fingers, probably about 4 or 5 times. Coming back up here. Then I'm gonna take this end here, and I'm gonna put it right down between my fingers and the string. And I'm gonna come back up. Try to keep this open. And I'm gonna put my string right back through that middle and pull it. Then I can let go of that piece. And I'm gonna center it, make sure it's nice and centered, and pull. And there we have a very pretty twine finger bow. We're gonna put that right here. So I'm just gonna get some hot glue. Actually, just kind of mess with it because it wasn't quite centered. There we go. Tighten that up some more. Just want to make sure both sides are even. Alright, that looks good. I'll put my dab of glue right there in the middle. And I'm going to glue it on there. Just kind of fluff it up a little bit. Cut my tails where I want them. Alright, so we have one there, one here, and then I'm going to hang a key on one of these strings here. This one here. And I'm just going to take my key and string it through the twine. And I want it to hang about right here. There. I like that a lot. Okay. Cut off the excess twine. There we have it. So we have the cute little key hanging, which I think maybe we should glue it down, like right here. Yeah. Just to give it some more, so it's not going everywhere. I'm just gonna put a little glue on the back of the twine, and I'm just gonna hang it there. And then this one, cut it down just a bit. It's not quite laying where I want it to, so I may glue this one down too. It's gonna put a little piece of hot glue on the twine. A piece of hot glue, listen to me. A little bead of hot glue. I'll just glue that one right there. That way they're not going anywhere. I love this actually. So I will post pictures obviously at the end of the video. And then on the back, I'm gonna just make a little twine hanger here. So I'm going to grab a piece of that extra twine and make the hanger. I'm gonna make a little, just a little knot on it. Nothing. And then I'm going to position it because I want it to be below the heart. Okay. Put the glue there. Hold it down. And then of course I'm going to grab a piece of chipboard. Cut a little square. Don't know how straight that is, but and then just right underneath that knot, I will glue this down. Trying to get some of that excess glue off. Okay. That is in, and now I will cut this extra string. And that is nice and secure, ready for hanging. Alright guys, that's it for this DIY video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the different ways I do things here. You can use my ideas and add what you like, leave out what you don't, make it your own, use colors, use whatever you like here. Alright, there we go. And let me know in the comments if you like the buttons or if you like the wood hearts better on this one. And you know, if you want to see me do anything particular, just leave those in the comments too. Alright guys, I will list the supplies that I use down below, and until the next video, have a great day. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much. And if you are coming here and watching these for the first time, I hope you would consider subscribing. Everybody, have a great day. See you in the next video.